Hello, welcome back to another Swans Cast match preview. And I've got to be honest, if I sound a little bit annoyed, it's probably, I'm sure everyone knows what's going on at this point. And when you're watching this video, you probably want to see if there's any more information, and maybe we'll have some, maybe we won't. But probably one of the more weird ones I've had to do, to be honest, in all my time doing these previews. I've got Chris from Albion Analysis here. So welcome, Chris. Welcome back to the channel.
Cheers, mate. And yeah, look, this I've been podcasting for 3 years now, and I'm in the same boat as you, Luke.
Yeah.
This is one of the weirdest ones that I've ever had to do because honestly, we're both sitting here and thinking we don't even know what dugout your manager's going to be sat in, or if he's even in the stadium. So we don't even know how to talk about him, do we?
No, and for context of anyone that might not be in the loop of what's going on, you might have seen some weird comments from Luke Williams over the last two games. Obviously, we beat Luton, and he came out originally and didn't shut down links, essentially, to go into West Brom. He then, I would say, doubled down on those sort of comments in a different way after we got drubbed 4-0 away to Portsmouth. And the fact that we ended up actually getting drubbed away to Portsmouth was weird enough in itself, in my opinion. When you bear in mind, we're in that's 1st of January, and we have not lost a game by more than one goal all season. All of a sudden, links come out about the manager leaving, and then we're going to ship 4 at a team in the relegation zone. So I'm not taking anything away from Portsmouth, right? They played well. We played quite bad, but just a weird week, weird set of circumstances, weird comments. And now we're in a position day after that, where the next match is against the club he's being linked to. Obviously, Chris is here to give us insight from the other side. And yeah, we'll find out, I think, before that match kicks off, where Luke Williams is going to be managing for the foreseeable future, because as we were just discussing before the match, it's a bit of a weird situation where if he is going to leave to go to West Brom, it has to be done surely before that match, for all sorts of different reasons. And I think we're both under the impression that it is definitely on the agenda of being a done deal.
It's certainly what I hear. I mean, look, I'm not one of these people who has amazing sort of insider contacts or anything like that. But I worked at the club for 8 years. You know enough people who hear enough things, and when you start hearing things en masse the way I've been hearing them for the last few days, that this is, this is a done deal. People saying, I'd be very surprised if he's not named as manager inside the next 48 hours. I mean, look, even going back to just before Christmas, when all the rumours around Corberán circulated that he was going to Valencia, and it looked extremely likely that he was going to Valencia, Luke Williams was the first name that I had told to me by reliable people. So, look, it was the first name I've heard. It's never really gone away. The bookmakers' odds are getting slashed left, right, and centre. And And then you've, as you say, you've got Luke Williams's comments after the Luton game. It was, should West Brom call you? No, they should call my agent. That's what you have an agent for, which was about as close to holding up his agent's number on live television as you're going to get. And then, I mean, that was just a weird comment after Pompey to say, well, if they were here watching today, I'm not going anywhere, am I? It was a bit like, I want to go, but if they've watched that game, they won't take me. So
he also said in that game, though, that he didn't think the Swans fans were happy for him to stay either. So, just weird, all round weird. Because I don't know where that's
seem to handle the media brilliantly, does he?
Not in the last few weeks. I think he's been okay otherwise. But this is what I was saying to you earlier on. Our previous manager got slated for really poor media presence. And I just think we've seen a little bit of that in Luke Williams the last few weeks, which I don't think's been penalised the same way. Until now, maybe, now that everyone's frustrated because he's leaving as a result of it. And I agree with that. It should be slated. There's a way of doing it, isn't there? And I don't begrudge anyone from moving on in their career. Because in reality, West Brom are probably in a better position, like we were discussing before the video as well. I know it might be hard for some Swans fans to hear, or maybe some won't agree with it, but ultimately we have been in the Championship for, 7 seasons now? So we're just established in this league. We're not that team that's got relegated anymore, that's on the brink of going back up. Last season, we were more closer to flirting with relegation than we were the other way. It looks like we might have turned the corner to get back to challenging, at least to the outside of the playoffs. So potentially that's where we're going. But West Brom are probably in a team that's a little bit above that, where more expected to be in that top 6, more of a better chance of going up, or at least having an opportunity to in the top 6. They've probably got more resources to do that, and buying more resources also means more pay for the manager. So I think all those things combined make sense for him, and that's probably why he wants that. But he has come across a little bit desperate to leave, and I think that's what's come across as a bit of a shock to a lot of Swans fans, because you don't often see that from a manager. There weren't any signs really at the club that he didn't want to be here, I guess. It was we're in the middle of a project. It's only been here just under a year. The project's been going quite good, especially the last month or two, where it looks like it's finally clicking into place. A bit of excitement around what we can bring in January. Is it going to be enough to actually knock on the door of the playoffs? That's the questions I've been answering on previews the last couple of weeks. The Portsmouth game, they sent me a bunch of questions to answer, saying like, are you going to be challenging for the playoffs the second half of the season? And what change in like the space of a week is crazy, how football can change like that. But I guess that's the situation we find ourselves in now.
And just as you say, Luke, like around his comments, it's not just the Swansea fans that he's kind of not done himself any favours with. I don't think the way he's handled this in the media has actually helped the perception of him by West Brom fans either. Because look, you've got to remember, we've just gone through it with. To be fair, Carlos Corberán himself handled it quite well in the media, but his agent undoubtedly was getting him linked to every job that was coming up. Leicester needed a manager, Corberán. Wolves needed a manager, Corberán. Leeds needed a manager, Corberán. Las Palmas, Valencia, and it was getting tiresome for fans. And I think, rightly or wrongly, and I do think Carlos himself was more committed to the project than I think his agent is just probably one of the busiest men in football. But I think that the perception from fans was that this man is not particularly committed to the club. Now, they look at Luke Williams and the way he's gone about things over the last week or so at Swansea. And I'm sure there's a worry from certain out of the frying pan and into the fire a little bit in terms of, have we got another career manager in who, because fans want managers to act like fans, don't they? At the end of the day, and they want managers to love the club and all this sort of thing. And we do have to remind ourselves at times that it is just a job. And if somebody came knocking your door with twice as much money to do the same job, what would you do? But it's still a worry for fans when they look at it and think, is this going to be another guy who is going to walk away at the first sign of a better job?
I'm sorry to add fuel to that fire, because we shouldn't be shocked really as Swans fans. And I did say this to you straight away, didn't I, when you asked me, because you messaged me asking what I made of those comments, obviously with a bit of an interest of him maybe moving on. This is after the first after Luton. And as much as I brushed the comments off initially, not that bothered about them, which obviously I changed my perception of as the week's gone on. I did initially say, however, he has done this before. He did it when he left Notts County to come to us. So we shouldn't be surprised as Swans fans, and probably shouldn't get that frustrated, because we'd be a little bit hypocritical if we didn't expect it, considering we were happy when it happened to the club he came from in the first place. Now, the difference, I think, is there was a 2-league jump up. So maybe it's more understanding that a club 2 leagues higher comes calling. You maybe let him off the hook a bit, because, obviously he wants to go up 2 leagues. It's good for his career. It's a little bit more obvious on paper. And maybe the Notts County fans weren't as frustrated. I think they still were a bit annoyed at the way that he handled that, because he did a come and get me plea. We didn't actually go and get him for another 3 weeks. He wasn't our number one target back then, but we did revisit him and obviously brought him in the end. But yeah, he's done it before, so second time now, maybe it's something that we shouldn't be shocked to see again in the future, which probably not what we want to hear. But maybe that's the reality of it. And I think a lot of managers are like that these days, isn't it? It's just career now. It's not necessarily so much love for the club and all that.
And that's it, Luke. And yeah, I know what you're saying. It's not what you want to hear, but I suppose the flip side of that coin is the only way anybody comes and gets him off us is if he does a good job. So you do kind of win either way. But yeah, I think he should almost come with a warning label to Albion fans that if he has a good 12 months and Premier League clubs start sniffing around him, do not expect him to stay.
So with that statement being made then, and we'll get on to the actual preview of the next game in a minute, right? But obviously this is all big, fresh news. Do you view him to have been doing a good job since he's been at Swansea then? Obviously, if he's been highlighted as a target for yourselves, based on what you're saying, you'll move on if he's done a good job. Do you think he's kind of done that now?
I suppose, to be honest, mate, when we flip this over and I ask you for our channels, I'll be asking you exactly.
I'm just curious of an outside sort of perspective, I guess.
I mean, it's always really hard to sort of like say where a club should be. And I think that's ultimately, if you're trying to answer that question, you're trying to say where should Swansea be? Because at the moment you're upper mid-table in the Championship. Yeah. For me, that's not miles off where I see you as a club. So I feel like he's doing a decent job, not an amazing job. But what I would say is, you look under Michael Duff, you look like you were hurtling towards relegation. He very much steadied that ship at the back end of last season. I know you had a strong finish to the season, only one defeat in the last 5 games, and up until the completely bizarre game at Portsmouth, you were 1 place and 3 points behind us, and everybody's saying what a good job Carlos Corberán has done at Albion. He's lowered the wage bill. He's he's turned over the squad, and he's still got them sniffing around the playoffs. Well, Swansea were 3 points and 1 place below us with a much smaller wage bill. So if Carlos Corberán was doing a good job at Albion, then Luke Williams must have been doing a good job at Swansea, and I think that's really the only way I can look at it.
I think that's probably a fair comment, to be fair. And I think you can only judge us from what happened last season. This season, we were only asking for a bit of stability and consistency, not really to be under threat at the bottom half in the relegation. And where we found ourselves, I think, if I'm being honest, probably a little bit ahead of where I thought. Probably 12th, where we are on the table currently, is where I thought we might finish the season. But it's not, I wouldn't say being 12th currently is the story of our season. I think that's where we are at the moment, because it's quite tight in that area. But we're definitely a team, or has felt like a team, that could knock on the door if we could get a bit more consistency. I think when we've played at our best this season at times, we look like one of the better clubs in the Championship. Like when we go and beat QPR 3-0, for example. I'm not just saying that as a Swansea fan, but there's times that we really do look unplayable and like on top of the world. But we can't necessarily replicate that all the time. Definitely not against the teams who might find themselves in the top 6 when we play in them. That's very rare that we get in points from those games. And it's not often we're doing that sort of performance for 90 minutes as well. And those are the two things I think letting us down, being higher up the table. So based on those things, I would say, yeah, he has done a good job. So any West Brom fans listening, he's only been here for less than a year. He took a club that was on the brink of a relegation battle, I would say. They weren't on the brink of relegation, but a relegation battle. Managed to steer the ship away to be comfortable in the end last season, but by changing the game style, the play style mid-season as well, which is what he did. He brought in his own style, which is completely different to Duff. It was similar to our previous manager before that, Russell Martin, but Duff tried changing it. We went back, so we kind of did like a 360 in a space of 6 months. But obviously you can imagine that makes a little bit of a mess in the club, the players that were brought in and stuff. And it was a big change needed, so he has steered that in the right way. And we weren't expecting to challenge to go up this year. So he's doing probably a little bit above what I expected, really. And like I said, we hadn't lost a game by more than 1 goal until the Portsmouth game. So we've been competitive in every single game this season. Even if we haven't played well and we look like not great, we've either nicked a point or just lost by 1 goal. You can't really argue with that a lot of the time, I think. So we've been solid for most of the year, and it looked like something was building. And I think that's what hurts a lot of the Swan fan base right now. But anyway, I'm sure something might be announced. This will go up tonight. I'll get this video up tonight because I think it's good to get this out ASAP. So we're recording this on the 2nd of January. can't actually remember what day of the week it is anymore because Christmas and all that. But
it's Thursday because I had to go back to work today.
Okay, I'm off today. I've got like a week off now because I work retail, so I had to work all Christmas and now I get my time off. But yeah, so 2nd of January. This will go up later on this evening because it's 6 o'clock now. We might have more news by then. We might not. Who knows? We're also going to be recording our big podcast after, so it might happen during that. I'm sure you'll all know exactly when it happens anyway, and these views will still be relevant. But now we're going to actually go and talk about the game because that is still going to happen no matter what happens with this situation. West Brom, then, you've already mentioned your manager's recently departed to Valencia, which is why the situation is happening in the first place. But he's left you in quite a strong position. You're sitting in 6th position in the table right now. 6 points ahead of us, obviously, now, because we just discussed we got battered last game. How has your season been so far, then? I believe last time I spoke to you, was quite optimistic about the year and the job that had been done before. I think last season, people were worried about West Brom because of off-the-pitch factors. And it looks like that situation is a bit more under control. And, you're fighting at the right end of the table, really. So how has your season been so far? And I guess what's next, other than what we've already just discussed?
Yeah, I mean, the off the field stuff is really sorted largely. I mean, look, we've still got to be careful because we're quite close to the FFP sort of borders. And if Luke Williams is coming in, I hope he doesn't expect an open checkbook because he ain't going to get one. We'll give it a couple of years and we sort that out. And we have got an owner who's made it quite clear that he's not against putting a bit of money in. So I think once we're the right side of the EFL's rules, we'll be in a decent position to step forward and challenge. And obviously, if we get promoted in that time, it largely solves the problem as well. In terms of our season, I mean, look, last time we spoke, Luke, it was we were flying. We'd beaten QPR, we'd drawn with Leeds, we'd won at Stoke. We then beat you and won the 2 after that, and from sort of like that point on, it's just been this weird season. We drew 10 of the next 11 games. So, after we'd lost 2 on the spin, we drew 10 of 11, but didn't lose any of them. So we've kind of had this bizarre season under Corberan where we haven't lost a lot of games. We haven't won a lot of games either. And then you got fans sort of moaning during that period, understandably, to be honest, because, you keep drawing every week. It's not great. And sort of saying, we'd be so much better winning and losing a few of these rather than constantly drawing. So what have we done since then? One lost, drawn, won. So we have done that, since we've broken this mad run of draws. But what I would say is earlier in the season, our away form was a really, really strong point of our game, of our season. We won our first 3 away games. We'd only lost one away game all season before we travelled to Watford on the 15th of December. We've now we now haven't won an away game since we went to Hull in November. We've lost 2 and drawn 1 of our last 3. We've been really, really good at home, which was kind of where we were struggling before. We scored something like 2 goals in our first 8 home games. We were really struggling to score. We were drawing a lot of games. We beat you and Plymouth, but that was it really at home for ages. And now we've kind of, the home form has turned into our strength, but I can't say I'm massively confident going into any away game at the moment because we got beat at Watford going 2-0 down. We got beat at Derby going 2-0 down. Both games we get a goal back, but we just don't leave ourselves enough time to get back into the game. We kind of threatened an equaliser in both games, had big chances at 2-1, but just couldn't get level. And then turned in a fantastic performance at Sheffield United. But it's always a bit different when you go to somewhere like Sheffield United or Sunderland because they're going to come at you. And then, and that we do like to play on the break, So you know that you're going to be in a decent position to sort of turn the ball over and have a go at them. With the best will in the world, I don't know whether Swansea are really going to play that way against us. You find a lot of the teams middle of the table kind of treat us with a little bit more concern than that. Bit worried about how much we can hurt them. And yeah, we kind of we struggle a bit more. So yeah, I can't say I'm mega confident going into Saturday, whoever is in the dugout, because our recent away form has been poor. I back us to beat just about anybody at the Hawthorns at the moment. We've been fantastic against Bristol City and Preston, but yeah, away from home, Sheffield United was good, but Watford and Derby weren't.
Just remind me who's in the dugout for you now currently.
It's the law firm of Brunt, Abeyer, and Myhill. So yeah, we've got a trio of them. Chris Brunt, obviously Albion legend. Boaz Myhill, our former goalkeeper, and then Damien Abeyer, who was a part of Corbrand's coaching staff, but hasn't followed him to Valencia. Apparently, very settled in the Midlands and is quite keen to stay on at the club, which is great, really, because there wasn't a great deal wrong with the Corbrand reign, even though some fans were moaning about the style of football and the caution first approach. We were still getting decent results, and we were in a decent position in the league. So to have, and I hope if Luke Williams does come in that he keeps Abeyer on, because I think having that consistency in the coaching staff would be really positive.
Yeah. You mentioned being confident for this game. I mean, it's hard for me to give an opinion about how I feel about this match going, to be honest, because I don't know I don't even know if we're going to have a manager there. I would have normally been comfortable and confident about it, but after the Portsmouth game and with everything going on, I'm not sure how the squad is feeling. It's hard to gauge. They didn't obviously play like themselves at all in that game. Some stupid errors that we haven't really seen much of. Like, there's been errors all season now and again, but I think it was quite a comedy in that game, off the back of two really strong performances, and now this uncertainty as well. Like, it's not great. So if he stays, as we maybe don't expect to be the case, I'm not sure the fans are going to be very happy in the ground as well. And I think, as you mentioned earlier, if he ends up leaving after the match, but he's in charge here, say stuff isn't sorted or whatever, and he does end up going, I just don't know. It's just a weird one to kind of put your finger on and
I think you've got
reaction, I think
you've got a better chance of beating us if he's not there.
Probably, that's what I mean.
I really do.
That's what I'm worried about. If he is there, then I'm not comfortable with feeling confident, I guess, for this game, because I just think it's going to be a horrible place to be currently, based on what's going on Twitter at the moment. And if he's not there, I guess it's a fresh start. I don't know who steps in. Probably Sheehan again, because he's stepped in before Luke Williams came. I'd imagine he will take the reins unless he goes with him, because you never know who goes with the manager. I don't know where we go next then, but yeah, maybe there's a chance if that happens, if he's gone and Sheehan goes in. But he played a completely different way as well to what Luke Williams has been doing this season. So it's hard to sort of talk about what to expect. So I was going to ask you kind of what we could expect play style wise as well. Is that something that you could be able to talk about? Do you think you know what to expect on the pitch?
Largely, yeah. Look, I think I don't think what we've seen from Brunt, Abeyer, and Myhill has been a huge departure from what Corbrand did. And to be fair, Brunty spoke about this after the game. He sort of said, "Look, defensively." His quotes after the game were actually quite enlightening after the Preston win. He said, "Look, defensively, the players know what to do. They've been incredibly well coached over the last 2 years by Carlos Corbrand. They know their jobs. They know what to do out of possession." He said, "And I really don't need to do much work in those areas." He said, "The one thing that really he has done in the build-up to the games that we've had, and this has kind of been very noticeable, really, is that he has just said to the players, look, where there's an opportunity to express yourself, get one-on-one with somebody, take somebody on, get a shot away, get in the box, take the opportunity. We want to score goals, we want to win games." And I think, as I say, Carlos was, for all his qualities, was definitely if you can't win, don't lose type of a coach. I think, and also he had a bit of a tendency to sit on a 1-goal lead at times as well, which was a big frustration for a lot of Albion fans. I don't think Chris Brunt has been that kind of a coach. At the same time, at 3-0 against Preston, we had this little wobble, let them back in the game, and at 3-1, and then they had a couple of chances. So I don't think we're as secure. I don't think for a second that would have happened under Carlos. But then again, I don't think we'd have been 3-0 up against anybody at half-time under Carlos. So I think what you see is basically the same Albion that you've seen all season, but probably just with the players having a little bit more freedom to go out and express themselves, but equally, we're probably not as secure at the back, and maybe those kind of defensive in-game tweaks that Carlos would have made, they're not quite there. So, yeah, it could. To be honest, given I mean, you're the 5th highest in the division for XG. I look at your games, and you've had some mad ones: 3-2 against Sunderland, 4-3 against Leeds, 2-2 at Pompey before they beat 2-2 at home to Pompey before they beat you, and everything like that. It actually could be quite an entertaining game because we under Chris Brunt, we have kind of set out to score more goals than we probably would have done under Carlos Corberán.
Yeah, our XG has improved drastically from early season. We were quite low early season. We went through a period of not scoring for 9 hours. But they seem to have fixed that problem. I was talking to you off camera about my concerns with Luke Williams. And then he did eventually fix some of them. That's part of it, is our goal scoring. Probably missing a striker who was perhaps a clinical striker to rely on. It's where our XG is not being converted into what we should be scoring on some occasions, especially early season. But yeah, I'm a little bit surprised to see that we're 5th, but I know it's definitely gone up since before. We just perhaps a bit too high at the other end sometimes as well on the XG against. But yeah, so okay, that's interesting to see. Maybe probably good to hear that you're a little bit easier to break down than last time we played against you. But I don't think we're necessarily in the best place defensively at the moment either. Ben Cabango went off injured in the last game, and the other centre-back, Harry Darling, probably had one of his worst games in a while after news coming out saying he's not going to sign a contract at the moment. So, yeah, we'll see what happens there. Kyle Bartley, obviously an ex-Swan that plays for you in that position, centre-back, started the last game. Is he someone who's still mainstay in your squad? Can we expect to see him on the pitch?
Oh yeah, I mean he's Ballon d'Or winner, isn't he? Look, we love Barts. What I would say, and Brunty said this after the game. He made a joke that he's not Carl Bartley's favourite person at the moment, because before Corberán left, Corberán said there is no way Carl Bartley can play every single one of the 5 games over the Christmas period. Well, do you know what? Barts has played 4 of them. So whether or not he plays against Swansea, I don't know. I mean, he's just come back from a knee injury. I think we'll want him to because Mason Holgate's been out injured. Paddy McNair's gone back to San Diego, and we have just recalled Caleb Taylor from Wycombe Wanderers today. So I don't know whether that's with an eye to the fact that Barts won't be able to start against you guys. If Bartley doesn't start, it's not because we don't want him to. It's because he's 33 years old and he has a lot of injuries. But he is a fantastic player, and if he's not heading the ball away, he's dumping people over advertising boards.
Yeah, that's fair enough. So we'll see if he's on the pitch and see if he comes back to his old stomping ground. Who can we be expecting to be the ones to cause damage if you are to get anything from this game?
Well, I mean, look, you've got to highlight. Really, you've got to highlight the front 4, haven't you? I mean, Josh Maja, I think had gone 8 without a goal before he scored twice against Preston. He's had a really good season overall. He's the division's top scorer. Second top scorer on 10, only behind Borja Sainz. And he's just a phenomenal player. He doesn't really play the 9 though. He plays the 10 and arrives late into the box. So he's built a really, really good partnership with Carlin Grant. I'm sure a man who's not terribly popular with
ex-Cardiff, of course.
Yeah. Well, look, to be honest, that's our tactic. Players that are broken and rubbish for us, we send them for a year at Cardiff, and Cardiff somehow fix them for us, and then we have them back. They did it with Kipre, they did it with Grant. But then again, they owe us after taking £8 million off us for Ken Zahor, who's one of the single worst footballers I've ever seen in my entire life. But yeah, Carlin's been a revelation this season, to be honest with you. Like, because we all thought his Albion career was done before he went to Cardiff, and he's come back just a different man. To be honest, probably the idea of playing for Cardiff has bucked his ideas up. He just never wants to go there again. So it scares players straight. That's what it is.
Yeah, well, so it should. Yeah.
But the wingers as well, Fellows and Johnston. Are really, really good players. I think Tom Fellows top assister in the division, and Mikey Johnston's really starting to hit his straps again. So the front four are where our threat are, which is hardly surprising, really. They're our four attacking players.
Okay, and if I flip the question, who do you think might be the ones to cause damage against West Brom, or who are you worried about from the Swans team?
It's tricky, really. I mean, whilst he's not really an attacking player, sort of. Matt Grimes seems to have a good game every time we play against you. He always sort of he's just so neat and tidy, and he does really well. You mentioned Harry Darling before. He's terrorised us from set pieces pretty much every time we play against you. I've still got flashbacks to that 3-2 game at the start of last season where he seemed to win. Oh, you should, yeah. And he seemed to win every single header. But I mean, beyond that, I don't really massively know what to expect from you. Liam Cullen seems to be having a bit of a breakthrough season where it's starting to come together for him, not just for club but for country as well. And I think he's a good player. And I haven't seen much of Ronald and Franco, but they did cause us problems in the reverse fixture at the Hawthorns. I don't really know, I haven't seen them mentioned in huge dispatches since then, but they were a problem in the first game. Yeah. But I think Cullen is obviously the one who stands out for me, and I'm always going to worry about Harry Darling at set pieces because he just seems to have our number, especially if Bartley's not there.
I won't worry so much about Franco at the moment. I think he might be still injured after having his teeth rearranged the other day. So I don't know if you saw that injury posted. It was everywhere on the sun and everything, but it was not very nice. I haven't seen that he's back yet, but yeah, bless him. I hope that whatever fixed dental stuff happens there goes well, because they looked very painful. Okay, well, thank you very much, Chris. I might maybe have a couple more words with you over the next couple of days. Who knows? But hopefully we get some clarity before the match anyway. Thank you for joining me. Can you tell everyone where they can find you, where your content is and what you do?
Absolutely, yep. The Albion Analysis, it's available on X. It's obviously wherever you get your podcasts, Apple, Spotify, all those usual places. You want to chuck me a follow, give me some stick if you beat us, feel free at CJ Hall 83. And also the first sort of 15 minutes of our latest episode, we do talk quite a bit about Luke Williams and the links to Luke Williams. So I can't imagine for the life of me you're going to sit there and listen to the next 40 minutes of it where we talk about the Preston game. But if you want to listen to the first 15-20 minutes where we talk about Luke Williams, that might be of interest for some of your listeners.
Well, go check that out. I do always have it linked in the description, so you can check it there if you want to. But yeah, it's fine. You might not want to go and listen to what West Brom think about Luke Williams, but you might, might be some interesting news there that I don't know. You might want to go and check it out.
We slag him off for it. Yeah, we slag him off for his stuff in the media. So you might want to
check it out.
To it.
Yeah, go check it out. They're going to say how much they don't want him. But thank you anyway, Chris. And yeah, let's either see you. Well, chat to you in a bit, or I'll see you maybe next season. We'll see what happens.
Absolutely, mate.
Thank you very much.
Cheers.